They always said Natalie had a glow about her, a kind of charm that made people lean in closer, laugh louder, trust quicker. I used to believe it too, but the glow wasn't warmth, it was bait. My name is Olivia Martin. I'm 25 years old, an accountant living in Dayton, Ohio. And for most of my life, I've been stuck in my little sister's shadow. Natalie is 2 years younger than me, but you'd never know it by how she carries herself. She walks into a room and everyone turns to look. Guys trip over their words. Women somehow decide she's the fun one even before she says a thing. I don't think she's ever lifted a finger without someone handing her a reward for it. Growing up, she got away with everything. My parents would laugh off her tantrums, ignore her manipulations, excuse her lies. "Oh, that's just Natalie," Mom would say with a chuckle. "She's still young," Dad would shrug, even when she was well into her 20s. Meanwhile, I was the one cleaning up her messes, the one who followed the rules, brought home good grades, did my own laundry by age 10. And still, no matter what I did, she always came out on top. The first time Natalie really hurt me, I was 16. His name was David, my first boyfriend. He was a year older, funny kind, had this slightly crooked smile I loved. We weren't together long, just a few months, but it was intense the way teenage relationships are. He said he liked that I was quiet and smart, not loud like other girls. Then one day he stopped texting me back. I found out a week later that he'd been at a party. Natalie had been there too, wearing my favorite dress and sitting on his lap. She giggled when I confronted her, like it was some harmless joke. "Oh my God, Liv, relax. It's not like you were getting married." David never apologized. My parents just said, "Boys will be boys." And Natalie? She didn't get in trouble. She never did. That wasn't the last time either. Over the years she made it a habit, stealing guys I liked, flirting with friends I brought home, planting little seeds of doubt in my relationships. And every time I confronted her, it turned into a performance. She'd cry, make herself the victim, and somehow twist it so I looked like the bitter one. "I didn't know you liked him," she'd pout. "I thought we were just hanging out." She knew. She always knew. I used to think I was being paranoid. Maybe I was imagining it. But after David there was Chris, then Jordan, then Kyle. Different faces, same outcome. And still my parents never called her out. I tried once to tell my mom that Natalie had kissed my boyfriend behind my back. She sighed, put her hand on mine and said, "Olivia, you take things too seriously. Natalie's just playful, like it was a game." Eventually I stopped telling them anything. What was the point? They saw Natalie as perfect, charming, pretty, innocent. And I was just Olivia, the older sister, the background noise. But I wasn't stupid. I knew Natalie wasn't innocent. I knew what she was doing. And somewhere around the time I lost Lucas, the last guy I ever truly trusted, I stopped feeling sad about it. I started getting angry. Really angry. I really thought Justin might be different. We met at a coffee shop just outside the city. He was reading a beat-up copy of Sapiens. I was waiting on a mobile order that got delayed 20 minutes. We made small talk. Then we started texting. 2 weeks later, we were seeing each other nearly every night. He was 28, thoughtful, steady, a civil engineer who liked quiet evenings and long bike rides. He listened more than he talked, which was a rare find in my world. And when I told him casually that I had a complicated family, he didn't press. He just nodded and said, "You don't owe me the details." I fell hard. Not the infatuated kind of falling I had known as a teenager, but the slow, deep kind. The kind where you start to think, maybe this one is safe. I kept him away from my family. For 6 months I didn't say a word about him to anyone, especially Natalie. If my parents asked if I was seeing anyone, I'd change the subject. I posted nothing online. I made sure he never came near a birthday dinner or Sunday brunch. I'd learned my lesson too many times. But secrets never stay buried in my family for long. It happened at dinner one night. Just the 4 of us, me, my parents, and Natalie, sitting around the table eating Mom's lemon chicken. I let my guard down for half a second. I made some offhand comment about Justin's weird thing with spicy food, and Natalie's ears perked up immediately. "Wait, who's Justin?" I froze. My mom looked up, interested. "Yeah, Liv, who's Justin?" Natalie leaned in with a grin. "You've been holding out on us." I tried to wave it off, said he was just a guy from work, and changed the subject. But I saw it in her eyes, the flicker of curiosity, the way her brain was already pulling at threads. She didn't ask again. She didn't have to. 3 weeks later I came over to Justin's apartment after work, early, unannounced. He always said I didn't need to knock. I stepped inside and there she was, Natalie, perched on the edge of his couch, laughing, hair perfect, legs crossed, acting like she belonged. Justin looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Liv, hey, I didn't know you were coming by." I looked at Natalie. She gave me this sweet fake smile and said, "You never told me your Justin was this cute." I left without saying a word. A week later, Justin texted to say he wasn't in the right place for anything serious. 2 days after that, he posted a picture of himself and Natalie at some rooftop bar. Her hand was on his chest. I didn't cry. I didn't even scream. I just stared at the photo and thought, of course, Of course it happened again, but this time felt different. This time something inside me started to crack. After Justin, I told myself I was done. Done dating. Done hoping. Done pretending Natalie wouldn't find a way to ruin it. But then came Lucas. I met him at a tax software seminar of all places. He was there for the free lunch, he joked, and I was there because my boss made me go. He was soft-spoken, curious, with this gentle, lopsided smile. A software engineer, nerdy, thoughtful, quiet. The kind of man who asked follow-up questions and actually listened to the answers. He was nothing like the others. And for a while I believed that would protect us. We dated for 7 months. I was cautious, careful. I never mentioned Natalie. I never brought him around my family. If he asked why, I just say, my sister's a lot, and leave it at that. He never pushed. I was happy. Not giddy happy, but safe happy. We'd stay in and cook on Fridays, trade bad memes on Monday mornings, take walks after dinner just to talk. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe around someone. Then came the barbecue. It was just a casual family gathering, Dad's birthday. I told Lucas I was going alone like always. He smiled and said, I get it. Families are weird. But at the last minute, my cousin Tessa showed up at our apartment to drop off a gift for my dad. Lucas answered the door. She saw him. And of course she couldn't help herself. 2 days later at the barbecue, Tessa blurted out, so Liv's boyfriend is hot, like real hot. Who knew our little Olivia had taste? Natalie was mid-sip of her sangria and stopped cold. Her eyes lit up like it was a challenge. What's his name? She asked casually. Lucas, Tessa replied. He's a programmer or something. Super polite. I wanted to melt into the grass. Natalie didn't say another word about it that day, but the way she smiled at me as she hugged me goodbye, I knew. She had a scent for weakness, and I just bled in the water. I scrubbed my social media, double-checked my privacy settings, warned Lucas that my sister was the nosy type and might try to connect. He just laughed and said, she won't find me. I barely even use Facebook. He was wrong. A week later, I stopped by Lucas's apartment after work. I had picked up his favorite Thai takeout and let myself in with the key he'd given me. I walked into the living room and froze. Natalie was sitting on his couch. Again, same posture, same sugary voice. She looked up like she was surprised. Oh hey Olivia, you didn't say you were coming. Lucas stood awkwardly nearby, looking caught. She just stopped by. We were talking about programming stuff. I didn't know you'd be here this early. I put the food down on the counter and left. 3 days later, Lucas ended things. I'm just not feeling the same connection anymore, he said. A week after that, Natalie posted a picture from a brewery with him. He had his arm around her. I stared at the screen, hands numb, and felt something deep inside me harden. Not break, not shatter, harden. That was the moment I knew. Natalie would never stop, not unless I made her. The night after Lucas dumped me, I sat on my couch with the lights off, staring at the wall like it might give me answers. My phone was buzzing on the table. Natalie had posted a story. Them again. Laughing, smiling, her in that smug pose she always used when she knew she'd won. I didn't cry this time. I didn't scream or call my mom looking for comfort I'd never get. I just sat in the dark, feeling this low, deep heat in my chest. Rage, not loud or dramatic, cold, controlled, focused. If Natalie wanted to play games, then fine. Let's play. I'm an accountant. People think that means boring spreadsheets and tax forms. What they don't realize is I work for a corporate audit firm. I know how to follow paper trails. I know how to read risk profiles. I know how to find things that people don't want found. And Natalie? She had a weakness, men. Not just any men. She liked them rich, handsome, and just dangerous enough to feel exciting. So I decided to find her exactly that. But this time I'd be the one pulling the strings. Took 2 weeks. Every night after work, I stayed late under the excuse of finishing reports. In reality, I was combing through flagged client accounts, old cases, buried complaint logs. I wasn't looking for just any guy. I wanted someone who could charm a woman like Natalie and chew her up in return. That's how I found Nicholas Hale. He had never been formally charged, but his name kept showing up in all the places it shouldn't. Civil lawsuits, asset freezes, investigations that quietly disappeared. He'd seduced 2 wealthy clients in the last 5 years and drained them of everything before ghosting them completely. Both women dropped their cases after settlements. He was smart, polished, manipulative, and perfect. I built a new identity for myself, a fake online presence as Lena Ward, a luxury business consultant with high-profile connections. I created an Instagram, bought a burner phone, even had business cards printed. Everything sleek, expensive, curated. Then I accidentally met Nicholas at a rooftop networking event I knew he frequented. I let him buy me a drink, let him think he was the one charming me. I dropped hints about a family member who was beautiful, naive, and spoiled rotten. I showed him a photo of Natalie like it was no big deal. He paused, then smiled in that slow, predatory way I recognized immediately. By the end of our 3rd fake meeting, he was hooked. My plan was simple. Introduce him to Natalie, let him do what he always did, and watch her fall headfirst into the same kind of emotional trap she'd laid for others. Only this time, she wouldn't walk away glowing and untouched. She'd finally know what it felt like to be used, to be discarded. I didn't feel guilty. Not then. I felt ready. Natalie's birthday dinner was at her favorite overpriced Italian place, the kind with dim lighting, white tablecloths, and entrees that sounded fancier in Italian than they actually were. She had booked the private dining room, naturally, and invited only select guests, which always meant the ones who made her look good. I arrived 10 minutes late with Nicholas on my arm. He looked perfect. Charcoal gray blazer, black button-down, crisp haircut, confident without being loud. As we walked in, heads turned. My mom's eyes lit up. My dad raised his eyebrows. And Natalie? She froze mid-laugh, her hand still gesturing in the air like someone had hit pause. "This is Nicholas," I said simply, resting a hand lightly on his arm. "My boyfriend." Her smile was slow, calculated. "Well, don't you clean up nice?" Nicholas smiled politely, shook her hand like she was any other stranger, and sat beside me without so much as a second glance her way. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. For the first 40 minutes she played it cool, asked him shallow questions, made little jokes at my expense. He answered everyone with just enough charm, just enough restraint, not cold, just disinterested, and that made her insane. I saw it in the way she kept adjusting her hair, repositioning her necklace, laughing louder at dumb comments from across the table. She couldn't stand it. She always assumed she was the center of attention, but Nicholas wouldn't even make eye contact unless she directly addressed him. When the server cleared the plates, I leaned toward her, casual as could be. "By the way," I said, "Nicholas is obsessed with Art Deco." I had to practically drag him out of the Cincinnati Design Museum. Her face flickered. "Oh," she said, "I love that stuff." She didn't. I knew it. She barely knew the difference between Art Deco and Art Nouveau. But I watched her grab her phone under the table and start Googling like her life depended on it. Over the next week I fed her hints, quiet things, that Nicholas loved jazz, that he only drank rye whiskey, that he was fascinated by Stoic philosophy. Within days she was posting Instagram stories from speakeasies she never used to go to, quoting Marcus Aurelius like she'd actually read him. I even caught her casually name-dropping the same interior designers Nicholas had mentioned in passing. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. She was already chasing him, and he hadn't taken a single step toward her. My plan was working. I had finally given Natalie what she couldn't resist, a man who didn't want her, and she couldn't look away. We waited until Thanksgiving. It had been almost 2 months since Natalie met Nicholas at her birthday dinner. In that time she'd done everything short of throwing herself at him. I watched from a distance as she posted photos from jazz lounges and design exhibits she clearly didn't care about. She even wore red lipstick, something she used to claim only tryhards did. But Nicholas played his part perfectly. He stayed just out of reach, cool, civil, committed to me. Then 1 week before Thanksgiving I staged the breakup. I met Nicholas at a bar after work. I wore a hoodie and no makeup, looking as unlike the polished version of Lena as possible. We sat at the bar and fake argued just loud enough for the right ears to hear. I walked out in tears. He stayed behind looking stoic and wounded. It was all scripted. We even left separately for effect. By morning I knew Natalie would find out. Sure enough, 2 days later she texted me a simple, "Sorry about Nicholas. You deserve better." Then a smiley face like we were close. I didn't reply. By December she had taken the bait. I saw it in her eyes at Mom's Christmas cookie party. Nicholas wasn't with me anymore, so she took her shot. "Do you think he'd mind if I reached out?" she asked innocently while decorating gingerbread. "Just to check in on him?" He seemed really down when I saw him. I smiled and said, "Do what you want." She was giddy, like a kid sneaking a cookie before dinner. I gave Nicholas the green light. He didn't waste time. By Christmas Eve, Natalie introduced him to the family, officially this time. "It just kind of happened," she told Mom, as if the universe had gently placed him in her lap. My parents didn't ask questions. They never did. Nicholas brought an expensive bottle of wine and helped wash dishes. My dad liked him instantly. My mom whispered to me, "He's so much more grounded than your last boyfriend." What a gentleman. I just nodded. By New Year's, Natalie was living in Nicholas's luxury apartment downtown. She posted photos of the view, the granite countertops, the brushed gold light fixtures. "He's so intense," she texted me one night, "but in a good way. Like he really sees me, you know?" I didn't answer. Behind the scenes I watched the trap tighten. Nicholas started telling her who he liked and didn't like in her life. He encouraged her to quit her job and focus on self-reflection. He gave her an American Express card with her name on it, but it was linked to one of his shell accounts and he monitored every charge. She thought she'd won, but she was already in the cage. And I was the one who locked the door. It started with the missed calls. Mom texted me one morning, "Have you heard from Natalie? She hasn't responded in 2 days." Then a second message, "She quit her job? When did that happen?" I didn't answer. I already knew. Nicholas had convinced her to step away from her work, told her it was toxic, that she needed space to grow. She called me once to brag about it, said she was finally living authentically. By mid-January, she wasn't showing up to family dinners. By February, she ghosted most of her friends. Her Instagram went quiet, just reposted quotes about loyalty and control, always with some vague caption like "only real ones stay." I kept my distance. I watched it all unfold through secondhand stories, intercepted text messages, and a few well-placed checks on Nicholas's financial activity. He was bleeding her dry. She started selling her designer bags on Facebook Marketplace. Mom assumed it was just spring cleaning, but I knew. Nicholas had slowly funneled her savings into one of his dummy shell companies, telling her they were investments. She believed him. She always believed men who made her feel chosen. Then came the bruises. Natalie showed up at Dad's birthday lunch in sunglasses and long sleeves, even though it was 80 degrees. She barely spoke. Nicholas didn't come. She said he was traveling for business. Mom asked gently if she was okay. Natalie snapped, "God, stop hovering. I'm fine." We all knew she wasn't. 1 week later it all imploded. It was a Friday morning when I got the alert at work. My firm's fraud monitoring service flagged a known name in an FBI database update. I clicked the file and saw both Nicholas's full name and beneath it Natalie's. Suspected accomplice in a federal wire fraud scheme. My stomach turned cold. By noon it was on the news. Nicholas Hale had been arrested in a sting operation tied to a multi-state investment scam. Millions in stolen funds. Dozens of victims. His luxury apartment, leased under a false identity. The high-end art, forgeries. The bank accounts, empty. And Natalie? She was in the apartment when they raided it. They found her name on fake bank paperwork, her fingerprints on documents, her face in photos attached to multiple wire transfers. She swore she didn't know, claimed she thought she was helping him with consulting work, but the damage was done. She was arrested, for months in federal prison, 3 years of probation. I watched it unfold from my apartment, the screen lighting up my living room. Natalie, once the golden child in a tan jumpsuit and cuffs, hiding her face from the cameras. Mom called me crying. She's not a criminal. She didn't know. But I knew better. Natalie didn't care who she hurt, until she was the one getting hurt. Until now, she had finally learned what it meant to be used. And for once, there was no one left to rescue her. First, I felt euphoric. Watching the news clip of Natalie being led into the courthouse in handcuffs, hair tied back, face pale. It felt like a lifetime of swallowed pain had finally found its voice. I didn't smile, but I didn't flinch either. I thought that meant I'd won. But the feeling didn't last. A few days after the sentencing, I sat alone at my kitchen table, staring at the untouched coffee in front of me. I'd done it. I had planned it, orchestrated every step. I handed my sister over to a man I knew would destroy her. And he did, just like I'd hoped. So why didn't it feel better? I tried to go back to normal. Work, errands, dinners with friends. But everything felt muted. Conversations blurred. Sleep came in short, restless stretches. My chest carried this low throb of something I didn't want to name. It wasn't regret for the outcome. It was regret for what I'd become to get there. So I did something I never thought I would. I booked a therapy session. I didn't tell anyone. I walked into that office with my guard up and a dozen rehearsed lines ready to go. But the therapist didn't ask about Natalie right away. She asked about me, about who I had been before all this started. I didn't know how to answer. Over the next few weeks I started unpacking it all. The years of invisibility, the way my parents excused Natalie's cruelty as sibling rivalry, the way I kept shrinking to avoid conflict until one day I snapped. I didn't want revenge. I told my therapist once. Not at the beginning. I just wanted her to stop. But the deeper we dug, the clearer it became. I hadn't just wanted her to stop. I wanted her to hurt. I wanted her to feel powerless, humiliated, discarded, exactly how I had felt. And I got my wish. Meanwhile, Natalie was trying to rebuild. She moved to Texas after her release, some tiny town where no one knew her name. Mom told me she got a job at a thrift store, cashier, minimum wage, no makeup, no heels. Just Natalie, stripped of the spotlight she'd clung to her whole life. She never called me, but I heard from our mom that she was in therapy too. The old me would have said she was faking, manipulating the system like always, but the truth is, I don't know. Maybe prison broke something in her. Maybe it finally forced her to sit still. I didn't forgive her. Not yet, but for the first time in my life I wasn't obsessed with her anymore. I was finally starting to focus on me. 3 years later I barely recognized the life I used to live. I wake up beside someone who knows everything, every wound, every twisted corner of my past, and chooses to love me anyway. His name is David. Not the David from high school, but another one. A high school history teacher with kind eyes and a dry sense of humor. We met at a friend's trivia night, and when I told him eventually the whole story he didn't flinch. He just said, "Well, sounds like you finally took the wheel." We've been living together for almost a year. Nothing flashy. A 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of town, mismatched mugs, Sunday grocery runs. The kind of stability I used to think only other people got to have. My parents changed too. It didn't happen overnight, but after Natalie's arrest, something cracked open in them. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just reality finally slapping them in the face. They started therapy together. Mom actually apologized to me once, really apologized without making excuses. I think we failed both of you, she said. In different ways. It wasn't a fix, but it was a start. As for Natalie, she stayed in Texas. She got out of probation a few months ago. Last I heard, she's working as an office assistant at a small real estate company. Nothing glamorous. No followers. No filtered selfies. She's dating someone new, a guy named Trent apparently. I don't know much about him except that he works at a tire shop and owns 2 cats. We don't talk, but we send birthday cards now. Simple ones. No glitter, no inside jokes. Just hope you're well. And take care. It's strange but not bitter. Just distant. I think we both know we can't go back. The truth is I don't want to. I spent so long trying to win a game I didn't realize I could walk away from. Trying to prove something to Natalie, to my parents, even to myself. Now I'm just living. I go to therapy every other Thursday. I've started drawing again, something I stopped doing after middle school. Sometimes I sit by the window with a pencil and pad, and David will come up behind me and say, "You're making something again." That's good. It is good. There are scars. Of course there are. But they don't bleed anymore. They just remind me of where I've been, and how far I've come. The cycle ended, and maybe finally that's enough.